Welcome to Midlife Matters. I'm Marie, and each week I'm joined by my friends Julie and Mindy to talk about all the topics keeping women in the middle years up at night. Today we're talking about food rules, the diet culture, and all the mixed messages we hear around eating healthy. Join us as we laugh at some of the weird things we've tried and what has and hasn't worked for us over the years. Let's get started. Hi, Julie.
Hi, Marie.
Hi, Mindy.
Hey, Marie.
Today we're going to talk about food rules and the ways our culture looks at food, weight, and really all the different messages we often hear. Julie, this is something you suggested. Can you tell listeners what got you thinking about this topic?
Yeah, I was just reading about nutrition. It's something I enjoy reading about. And there's so many conflicting messages out there. I stumbled upon this dietitian on Instagram, and her name is Colleen Christensen, and her Instagram name is No.Food.Rules. And this really kind of lines up with the way that I've tried to eat most of my life, so it really intrigued me. Her tagline is lover of both cupcakes and carrots. I loved that.
That's cute.
Yes.
Yeah, and I have certainly tried dieting at various times in my life. But the premise here is that, we live in this diet-obsessed culture that focuses on weight more than anything else, more than health. And I think the two are very much linked. They go hand in hand. But I think a shift in thinking about how you feel is probably healthier mentally than constantly thinking about how you look. And so her objective is to kind of get back in touch with what your body's telling you instead of letting the diet tell you when and what to eat. Just because of all the diet messages that we hear, we've kind of lost touch with the signals that our body gives us.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And she thinks intentional weight loss just doesn't work long term.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Well, whether we realize it or not, we do expend a lot of energy every day trying to follow food rules or feeling guilty about breaking them. So I think that her Instagram handle is something that would appeal to a lot of people. No food rules.
Oh,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, just to be clear, what do we mean by food rules? What are some things that you hear in your own head or maybe just from people that you're around? What are some examples?
Mindy, you want to go first?
Oh my gosh. I had a whole list come to mind, depending on what friend I'm talking to. I'm not going to eat dairy. I'm not going to eat gluten. No sugar, no carbs. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm vegan.
Right, right.
And things change. Even if you talk to me over the past 20 years, I would have had a different set of rules. So I totally get it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My husband's father, he was forever saying oh, they told me eggs were good at one time. Then they told me eggs were bad and bacon was good and bacon was bad. And I mean, he had just seen it come around. And I just remember him always scoffing and being so skeptical of any new food, in quote, rules that came along because they come and go and they'll flip-flop completely the opposite way in 5 years.
It's
true. If you've
true.
lived long enough, you'll see it all totally change or revert back to what they used to say was bad is now good. And
Right. So it's meat is good, and then it's lean meats, and then you have no meat.
Uh-huh. Right.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, you shouldn't eat butter. You were supposed to eat margarine. Now, no one wants to eat margarine. That's just a bunch of chemical stuff. And you're supposed to eat real butter. You never know. It was no fat, then it was low fat, then you should have some fat. You just don't know.
Right. It's true.
Yeah, it's avocados. They're high in fat. Oh, but they're good fat. Or eat only chicken. No, chicken's full of hormones. Eat nuts before a party to fill you up. No, nuts are high in fat. It's you get so many conflicting messages.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
right. Even things that are good, they'll say beans are good, but then, but don't eat beans out of a can because canned beans aren't good. There's always something that they're trying to tell you is bad.
I'm pretty much always doing it wrong is how I feel
Right.
I love eggs because eggs are healthy. Oh, no. You should have egg whites. I'm but I don't like egg whites. I like the whole egg.
Right. Or sugar is bad. I think most people would probably agree with that. Well, then you'll find people that say, well, fruit has sugar in it.
Mm-hmm.
They don't eat fruit. I mean,
And then you hear that, no, you shouldn't use the sugar substitutes. If you're going to have sugar, just have the real thing, kind of like butter and margarine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are so many things that were declared healthy for us. Even diet soda was at one time supposed to be like healthy for us and a great substitute. And now, we find out that it's worse than the real thing.
Right. Like you should just drink your Coke, not your Diet Coke.
Right, right. What's like the craziest diet that you guys have ever followed? Did you ever get on board with any of these fad diets that have come and gone?
This is the funniest one that I've ever heard of. And I think I probably did it at once. I think my mom might have done it once. And I know a friend that did it. Have you ever heard of the hot dog diet?
No.
Oh my gosh, this sounds awful already.
It sounds like a dream come true for some people.
Yeah, you literally get to eat like 2 hot dogs for lunch, and you have, I think, a grapefruit for breakfast, and it's all very measured out, like what you have for each meal, even a dessert. But it involves hot dogs. Like, how bizarre is that?
What kind of hot dog? Because we can have a whole discussion about kinds of hot dogs.
Right?
Yeah, I don't think it mattered.
I wonder who comes up with the cabbage soup diet and the no carb diet, just like tons of diets that come and go. What do you think that maybe you believed about food the longest that you put into practice? Like for myself, I think probably the no fat or low fat diet stuck in my mind the longest. For years, anything that had no fat on the label was something you should buy.
Which comes to find out that means they've added a lot more sugar to make it palatable.
Yeah. I don't subscribe to that any longer, but it's amazing how long those messages can stick around.
Right. Yeah. That's definitely my mother-in-law. When she comes to the house, I notice that that's her rules is anything that says low fat. And whereas I felt like I grew up on the other end of the spectrum, Atkins diet was something I followed before. And I've talked about that before of doing a low carb diet. And so then you choose things that have higher fat contents. Like you eat this, you have Caesar dressing, you have
bacon,
meat, you have protein, bacon. And so then changing my mind about, I need to get leaner on those things. But it's funny that my mother-in-law and I, both different generations, come at it from 2 different viewpoints.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Well, what hasn't worked for you and what has worked? So let's start out with the what didn't work. Julie, what have you tried over the years that didn't work?
Probably the low carb diet. Let me just say, early on in life, I did not ever struggle with weight. I was one of those people that could just eat whatever. But after each child, I missed the weight stuck on, And after 3 children, it had finally accumulated to where, I probably weighed 30 pounds more than my pre-birth weight. So that's usually what I would try is the low carb diet. And like Mindy said before, it always works, but it just doesn't. It's not sustainable and the weight would come right back. And I was kind of miserable the whole time that I was doing it,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mindy, what hasn't worked for you?
I feel like my approach to this question is basically to say all diets work for a time. All of them will work. All of them will, anytime you change your diet and you reduce something, you're going to lose weight. The real question is it going to be sustainable? I really think it just comes down to if you're able to do portion control. And I say able to because I do struggle with having self-control in food. Mm-hmm. And I love food. I love to eat. And so currently I'm intermittent fasting. And that's because I don't have to make any food choices or rules. I just give myself a eating window so that I don't deny myself anything, but I do have better portion control. And I have a time at which I start eating and a time at which I stop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Well, I want to say to listeners that the things that we talk about today, we don't think we're perfect at. So I just want to go into the caveat, and we don't think that we look perfect. I guess I just want to make that clear to listeners up front. But we're just talking about what we do personally.
And I think we are admitting that we all still wrestle with these issues.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
I appreciate us talking about it. I think we could have this conversation again in a year and have completely different answers.
Right. Right. Yeah. So if we're just talking personally, then I would say what doesn't work for me is saying that something is off limits or
Right.
completely cutting out whole food groups or kinds of food, like all
Oh,
bread
Yeah.
or all meat. Or also time restrictions don't work for me, like saying I won't eat after 7 p.m. or I'll only eat 3 meals a day with no snacking in between.
Right.
That just is not sustainable for me. I've settled on moderation and just an overall generally healthy diet rather than looking at each individual item. Because sometimes we eat things that just aren't healthy. We just like them.
Right.
And
It's true.
we don't want to have to be judged or justify them. That's just the way it is. And I'm home a lot, and so I'm in charge of grocery shopping and meal planning. So I pretty much only have things in the house that I would eat or that my kids have asked for specifically. So I am fortunate that I don't live a life making continual food decisions or being tempted over and over again by new things, like someone that eats out a lot outside the home. I mean, they're going to have a harder time just because, we all struggle when we go to a restaurant. You can't control your portion control. There's things that are more tempting. They make it a different way than you would.
Yeah, it's definitely easier when you just don't have to buy it. Like I'm not going to buy something that's going to, I'm not going to go buy 12 donuts.
Yeah.
Right.
That's, and
And
yet
put them on
I
your
know,
counter and say, oh, just have one a day, Julie.
Yeah, no, that wouldn't happen.
Right.
But I will eat a donut at church. I'm not going to deny myself that,
Mhm.
Right.
I don't feel like that ruins everything. Like that's acceptable. Sure, an apple's better than the donut, but it's okay. I'm okay with that. Like I'm like you, Marie. I don't exclude any certain group of food.
Right.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
feel the same way, though. I do feel like I have a tendency to be obsessive in my life. And I know this about myself now at the age that I am. And so with the intermittent fasting, I follow that because it is a delay, don't deny.
Mm.
So I don't deny myself anything. Like if I'm grocery shopping, for example, I wanted some M&Ms with peanuts and I denied it. Like the first time I was at the store, I was like, no, I don't need those. The second time I'm at the store, like days later, I'm thinking I still want some M&Ms with peanuts. I'm like, well, I'm just going to buy them because I need to just go ahead and eat those. Like they've been on my mind like for a week.
Mhm.
And so I'll go ahead and have those. But then the next time I don't. I just feel like if there's a food that I'm really craving, I'm going to have it. I'm just going to make sure I am keeping myself honest about, how long my window is open. So for me, with my obsessive tendencies, I like having that. And then I don't have to have self-control the entire day. I only have to have self-control really during my window.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. All right. Well, let's move on to this topic, which I thought was an interesting question that Julie posed because I never even think about this. But she said, do you own a scale and how often do you weigh? All right, Julie, answer it.
Well, different times I would have different answers, but about 6 years ago, I did want to lose weight for a specific reason. My daughter was getting married. And so I did start kind of counting calories. And that's when I started working out and got serious with that. This kind of goes back to the previous question of what has worked for me. And I use the calorie tracker, the MyFitnessPal.
Mm-hmm.
And I used that thing religiously for 2 years and it worked. And now I don't. And that's something that the No Food Rules dietitian mentioned. She said that those do change the way you eat, but they can also interfere with the way you eat by taking away from you the ability to listen to your own body. You're relying on this
Right.
outside source and you're not ever
Right.
learning. So I would say in the last 3 years, I have been able to kind of transition off of that. And I know now how to listen to my body and what it needs and when I'm hungry and when I'm full. And I just try to pay attention to that more. So
Right.
now, back then, I was weighing every week because I was eating the right amount of calories and burning the right amount of calories to lose a pound a week.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was just amazing. Like I would do the diet, and I would lose a pound.
Mm-hmm.
But now I probably weigh once a month.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of feel like I'm just at my ideal spot now. And it's just, and I know that it's the ideal spot because it's easier to maintain.
Right.
Like if I lost 10 more pounds, I could probably do that, but I would never be able to maintain it, easily. So this is a comfortable place. And I just kind of go by the way my clothes fit, the way I feel, and step on the scales maybe once a month just to make sure there's not been some huge swing that that I'm not aware of.
Right. Yeah, we don't own a scale, and we never, ever have in over 25 years of marriage.
Whoa.
I will not have a scale in my house because for me, it would be dangerous to weigh myself on a regular basis. I weigh myself about 2 or 3 times a year, whenever I go to the doctor, and then maybe once or twice at the Y. But I just pretty much, if I put on my clothes from the previous season and they don't fit, then I'm like, all right, probably went a little overboard on this or that.
I know my trainer that I worked out with, she does not recommend weighing daily for sure. It's something you can easily start to obsess over.
I'll say like I've talked with healthy people that are on all ends of this spectrum with the weighing, and I personally weigh every day.
Okay. Well, here's 3 people that had 3 different opinions.
I think that's really cool, actually, that we each are different in this. But I enjoy it. I think that mentally, if it's going to send you into a tailspin, if weighing affects your brain if it sends you into guilt and shame, then you need to get rid of that thing. If it dictates your life in some way, I feel like it's part of my morning routine. I don't know why. The scale will fluctuate 10 pounds. I mean, I will fluctuate between 10 pounds all the time, but it doesn't really change my behavior, I guess. So I'm honestly not sure why I weigh other than it's just what I do.
Yeah. All right. Well, how do you guys know you're at your best weight? How do you know you're in a healthy place?
Kind of like you guys mentioned, it's how I feel mentally and how my clothes fit. I think that we each have certain clothes that we'll call, like our skinny jeans, or
they're like the standard.
Yeah. As long as I can get those jeans on, everything's good.
If I could wear my jeans comfortably without feeling sick. But it's also a mental thing. I've talked to my daughter about this, that when you know that you're sleeping right, eating right, you're exercising enough, if you're exercising and moving, I mentally feel better. Even if maybe my clothes are a little more snug. There's something about knowing that you are doing something to stay healthy that mentally makes you feel better.
Yeah, that's so true. When I started my workout 6 years ago, I said my goal was to lose weight. And after that first year, I remember thinking, I don't care what I weigh. Like, I will keep doing this because of the way I feel. Like, it was a total shift in my mindset that I truly enjoyed the exercise for the way it made me feel. And that was a neat thing because I remember hearing people that had worked out with my trainer for 5 or 6 years. And I thought, I didn't even comprehend. I was like, why would they do that? Like, haven't they gotten to their ideal weight? Well, it's like you just stop. You don't just do it, to a certain endpoint and then give up and expect to stay there,
Right.
So that was kind of eye-opening for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think as a woman, your best or like healthy weight changes throughout your life. Like my daughter said to me the other day, she just had a baby 4 weeks ago, and she said she wanted to get some summer clothes, and she said, "Mom, when do you think my body will be the way it's going to stay?" And I thought, oh, that's first of all such a dangerous question.
Right.
Second of all, because it's just always changing. Like, I think once you have kids, it may even be that you reach your pre-weight in quotes, but the body shape has changed. Things are different on your body. And as women age, our bodies change and our number may not be any different. And I think that's hard for women, myself included, to accept because we think, oh, but the scale says X.
Right.
But yet I can't wear that anymore. So I think that's something you have to start making peace with.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
And the beautiful thing about the aging woman is I've talked to so many women and you hear it. It's that with age comes acceptance. Accepting who you are, being more comfortable in your own skin. My body, it feels like it's been beat up and thrown out like to pasture. I just feel like it's been through so much. And I feel good when I can work out and that I can use it and that I can get up out of bed in the morning and I can do the things that I need to do. And I'm really happy with my shape. It's not perfect in any way, but just getting older makes you hopefully more comfortable in your own skin and just to be able to accept the way God made you and, the choices that we have in front of us, just trying to do the best we can, I guess, with those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk a little bit about eating. Eating is both comforting and communal. Do you guys agree with that statement?
Oh, I definitely do. I mean, you think about it, we celebrate most everything with food from life to death.
Mm-hmm.
There's food, we console with food. Most social events are centered around food. And I know when I travel, food is one of the most anticipated parts of the trip for me.
Yes.
Yeah.
I could tell you all the best places to eat wherever I've been. And that's the things that I have the fondest memories associated with is sitting in this restaurant. So yeah, it's definitely a social thing for me.
Yeah, I definitely think that food is comforting. I know that I will comfort my kids through food and not in like an overeating type way, but like if they're sick, I'll try and think of comforting foods to make, and then I'll serve it in a comforting way, like on a special plate or cut it a certain way or in a more loving manner than I might their normal lunch or dinner. Or I feel like if they have been having a hard week and they mention, oh, I really wish that I had this snack in the house, like I'll pick it up the next time I'm out because like it's like I love you. I heard you wanted that and here it is.
Right.
If my kids that live at home always tease me that the kids that don't live at home anymore get the best food because when the kids that don't live at home anymore, I tend to make all their favorites. Or if I know they like something, it's because I'm looking for that. I don't know. Is it a primitive instinct? We want to feed our children. We want to make something they like. We enjoy seeing them eat. We enjoy that connection with them from the time they're babies. I mean, I can remember, smear peanut butter on toast and cut it up into tiny little pieces. And you just can't wait for them to try every little thing to see how are they going to react? Do they like that? And you can just sit and watch them eat for hours. It's like a fascinating experience.
Yes. That's funny because Molly's been sending me videos of Ezra, trying each new food. And it's just kind of mesmerizing to sit there and watch him like either spit it out or what more. And that's been a fun process. But yeah, I get what you're saying, Marie, because my son, I told you before that he pretty much first thing in the morning would ask me, hey, Mom, what's for dinner tonight?
Right.
And it used to be so frustrating. Like, really? That's what we're going to think about from 7 in the morning? But I know that's kind of a love language of his. And so I don't want to disappoint. I'm like, if he's really looking forward to this all day, I just hate to serve up something that I know he's not going to like.
Right. Yes.
And now that it's just him at home, it's so much easier to please him because I don't have to worry about the others. Yeah.
Right.
And as far as the communal aspect, oh my goodness, I love a big meal with other people, like a family dinner. Like, I just love that. And it's so funny because I really prefer breakfast and lunch to be completely isolated. Like, I would prefer to eat breakfast and lunch by myself. But when dinner time comes, I want to gather. I want to have that conversation around food that people like. I want to have those memories. So I definitely feel like communal is definitely there for food. Like, I feel like you can connect with your friends better around a table, with your family better around a table. There's just something about sharing food together.
Right. Yeah, it is. It's one of those things that it's not just when you're anxious or sad or in a season of waiting, but yeah, you want to celebrate with it. And I love that picture you said, Marie, of as a mom, providing food for your children is just something very loving that we do. And I find that even for my husband, every time I'm going to the store, I'm asking, okay, what do you guys want? Do you have dinner suggestions or anything like that? And so I'm trying to realize that not every time we're together doesn't need to be a huge celebration with a lot of food, which is really hard.
The one time you don't do it, Mindy, then they're disappointed.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I do know that the food things change over the years, even for your kids. Like it used to be maybe your kids liked something and then they come home and they say, oh, well, I'm not eating that way anymore. Or, I cut that out of my diet. Or, yeah, I don't like it like that anymore. And it's so disappointing as a mom. Even if I understand it intellectually, emotionally, I'm so disappointed.
You're hurt. You're like, why is this hurting me?
I want to provide for you in that way.
Right.
The only thing I can ever think of is Marie off Everybody Loves Raymond, Deborah's mother-in-law, and how she used to love to feed Ray. And I can so identify with that now. Like I just never really used to get it. And now it's like your last connection with your adult children. Well, at least I could still feed you.
Oh, she would just like to sit and watch him eat. You know, it was just so much pleasure.
I can totally see it.
And yet somehow me making jackfruit tacos just isn't quite the same.
So why isn't it as enjoyable to feed our husbands as it is to watch our children eat? Like, shouldn't we have joy with feeding our husbands?
Well, I think it goes back to that instinct, though. You know, the instinct the mom has to provide food for their child. It starts right from birth. We don't have that instinct with our husband.
Although pre-kids, I did enjoy feeding him and watching him say, "Oh, this is so good," you know, or "Thank you for this meal." And but it did kind of just transfer to children once they came along.
See, I feel like Bryce is one of the few very appreciative people in the house with food, or at least he's more vocal about it. And so sometimes I'm just like, especially if Abby's not here, she's vocal, but the boys really aren't. So sometimes Bryce is the only one giving me positive feedback with food. And so then he'll tell me he's trying to cut back. And I'm like, all right, I want to help you cut back, but can you try this?
Yeah, I will say if there's any listeners out there who say, I don't think my mom ever felt that way about me. She never seemed to feed me that way. Take a look at how you responded to her cooking. If you were not full of praise and enjoying it, then she probably lost interest in trying to please you in that way. Because I do have a child that I could stand on my head and make the most gourmet meal ever, and he would be like, that's all right. I don't bend over backwards to feed him because he just doesn't care.
Right.
That's so true.
Right.
We want the connection back.
At the same time, now that my son that loves certain foods is home every day with me and he's begging every day for this one particular meal that takes a lot of prep work and ingredients, I'm done. I'm like, sorry, I'm not making that for a long time. I don't care how much joy you get out of it. I'm tired.
Well, speaking about joy of cooking and the joy around a table, I think that one of the things that can kind of detract from the communal feel of meals sometimes is the food rules that other people have. And I've noticed this over the years. Like when I was growing up, I don't really remember my parents ever making special meals for anybody that came over or asking, do you have even an allergy? I mean, maybe they asked about allergies. I really don't think so, though. I don't even think I knew anyone that had an allergy growing up, so I doubt they asked it. But now when I have friends over or when I want to plan a big meal, I feel like I have to take into account so many dietary preferences that sometimes I feel a little overwhelmed as the cook. Do you guys feel that way?
Yeah, it is hard because if you don't have those preferences or needs, you just don't know how to cook that way.
Right.
It's just very hard because I know even for the people that have those intolerances or needs, there was a big shift in the way they had to think about their own food prep. So it's certainly hard for somebody that doesn't have that to be able to do that for one meal, you know?
Right.
So yeah, that is really hard. And I think food allergies are on the rise.
Right.
I don't think I knew a single person allergic to peanut butter growing up.
Well, one of the most fun families we had over since moving to Pennsylvania, their children, they had dairy allergies and gluten allergies. And we're a large family and they are also a large family. And so I remember just like kind of approaching it from a place of, all right, well, let's figure this out. And I was asking my friend all these questions. Well, how do you cook? And we had to decide on a certain meal that I would be able to provide. And I just asked her 1,000,001 questions. Cause like you said, Julie, like we don't have either of those allergies or intolerances in our home. Mm-hmm. And so it was really kind of funny to try to figure out a meal that they would enjoy. I could be hospitable, but have their children be able to eat the things that I provided. But yeah, that's a question I ask right away now. If I'm going to make someone food or if we're having anybody over to the house, it's one of the first questions I ask.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I can maybe kind of joke about this because my kids that listen hopefully will take it in the spirit that it's said, because I've joked about it at home. But right now, if I'm going to prepare a meal for spouses, all my kids, I have to make a meal that is gluten-free, dairy-free, and garlic-free. Ooh. Then my son said over the weekend, I think I'm going to try a Whole30 diet. And in my mind, I wanted to break down and just sob on the floor because how could I make gluten-free, dairy-free, garlic-free, Whole30 compliant meals for 9 people?
Oh my gosh, Maria. It might have to be a BYOF meal.
I was going to say, eat before you come.
Bring your own food.
Oh my goodness. And the thing is I don't want people to bring their own food. I want that communal meal. Like it's just not the same.
Right.
I know. And I will say, my daughter and daughter-in-law are both eating vegan, and my heart just sank when I heard that because I thought, it's not that I care what they eat, but it just makes it hard, or in my perception was that it was going to be hard to prepare meals. And they're like, Mom, don't worry about it. Like, I'll eat whatever you cook, or I'll come not so hungry, or I'll bring something. Like they want it to be no bother. But as the host, it's still on your mind because like you said, you want everybody to be pleased with what you've cooked. You want them to leave full. You want them to leave satisfied. But I don't think they're worried about it nearly as much as we are.
Right.
And maybe that is shifting. Maybe that mentality is shifting. Like maybe we have an old school mentality of, we need to provide all the food for a meal and everyone's going to love it. And that's like what we do. And maybe with all the different food intolerances and food rules, it will become more acceptable to be like, okay, well, I'm willing to make this part of the meal. How about you make this that you'll be able to eat? Because I don't know how to make that, or I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I think they're okay with that.
Well, and you almost have to, it does need to be a shift that you find other things to commune around that maybe, food is a part of it, but maybe it's not the biggest celebration part of it, but that it's a game or it's something that you're doing together to take the focus off of the food.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know that even as I get older, I find that food is so readily available and it's talked about and looked at so often. And we really don't need that much food every day. I mean, most people, it's amazing how much less we can survive on and we can live on than what is available. Bryce and I have even talked about that, about how we have our happy pounds on us, that when we're happy, we eat more because we're excited. But that maybe if we can be happy and do something else that, not to celebrate with food, that would probably be a lot healthier for us.
Right. Do you guys believe that there are good and bad foods, or maybe acceptable versus off-limit foods?
I don't choose to think of food in that way. Obviously, an apple is better for you than a donut. I think I've said that before, but I don't feel like I will suddenly get a nutrition deficiency or become unhealthy from one snack, from one meal, or even from a day of eating. It's more of what I eat consistently that matters. So I try to think of like the path I'm on, the trajectory, not one little deviation here and there. So I don't make any types of food off limits. And I think when we do that, it could translate into, if food is good and bad and we choose to eat the bad, we could translate that into, I'm bad,
Right.
about how we feel about ourselves. So I think there's a danger in that. That would be for me anyway.
Right. Food at its core should be fuel for our bodies and is fuel for our bodies. And so if you're looking at and realizing how do certain foods make me feel, is it a portion control thing or is it a food thing? It's like Julie mentioned earlier, realizing when am I full? Did that make me feel good? Do I really want to have something, but maybe I need to keep the portion low because that's not going to be the best thing for, fueling my body. For example, I went to give blood and I was rejected because my iron was low.
Really?
And it was really funny because I was talking to the nurse that, I had already taken my temperature and gone through the blood pressure. And then she's checking my blood. And we joked about how people aren't consuming enough red meat. A lot of people would say, well, red meat is really bad, right? It has a lot of fat in it or whatever. And she's like, yeah, everybody's going to like poultry and things like that, or these leaner meats. And she said, and then we have all these people come in with low iron.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I thought that even today, while trying to give blood, I'm talking about food with the nurse that's taking my blood and telling me my iron is low.
Yeah, that's a good example.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point that I wanted to bring up, maybe back to that last question, was food intolerances are very, very real. And this dietitian would totally agree and support that. But I think a lot of people are kind of self-diagnosing themselves with food intolerances in order to maybe restrict calories, because that was her past. She said, and in college, she said, oh, I'm not eating any of this or any of this. And it was really kind of a way to limit her calories.
Right.
And that I think a danger of that might be to be missing out on some nutrients that you need, like not eating red meat. Okay. Well, if you're not really aware of that, well, where am I going to get my iron? Like if you're not planning on putting things back in your diet that could correct that, because I know there are ways to get it, but that's a really good point. Is you could be creating other problems.
Yeah, deficiencies.
Yeah.
One thing I've noticed about, in quotes, good and bad foods is usually the bad foods are more satisfying. I was thinking about your red meat example. Yeah, I could have a veggie burger or a turkey burger, but I wouldn't be as satisfied. Like, it wouldn't taste like a cheeseburger the way just one real burger would taste. And I could probably eat less of it and feel more satisfied and happy than if I tried to eat the, in quote, better option and I leave not very satisfied and overeat on something else later. I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah.
That's funny you mentioned the veggie burger, Marie, because I decided to try a veggie burger at a restaurant. I ended up eating half of it and ordering a real cheeseburger. I'm like, this is ridiculous. It made me mad. I'm like, this is just awful. I need the real cheeseburger. I love a good cheeseburger. And it just made me so mad to sit there and try to eat that veggie burger. I'm like, this is never happening again.
That's funny because at BurgerFi, I love their veggie burger. I've even made them at home. They're so good.
Yeah.
And I'm not, I eat red meat all the time. So it's not that. I actually prefer it.
I think it takes an extremely talented chef then to make substitutes taste well. So I don't know if we all have that ability. I certainly don't. I would rather just have the real thing and be done.
Yes. This makes me think of this book. Have you, either one of you, ever read French Women Don't Get Fat?
I have not.
Have you heard of it?
Fabulous.
I've definitely heard of it, yeah.
Okay, it's over probably 10 or 12 years old. And I read that book and it was so eye-opening. I loved it because French women are known to eat lots of rich sauces, butter, creams, chocolate, and cheese. But very few French people are overweight or obese, whereas Americans are, like 30% of Americans are obese. And the book is not a diet. It's just, it's about a lifestyle. And it was just so interesting to hear, like, they eat good food. Quality over quantity is one of her big takeaways, that they eat a lot of a lot of homemade cooked food, not processed. They savor it. They relax. They sit down over a meal. They would never eat standing up at a counter or in front of a television. A meal is an experience, and it usually is a social thing, with their family and friends, long conversations. And even though they eat less, they spend a lot more time eating. Because it's just a big production for them to get together and eat. So that's kind of something I've tried to model after, is just eating slower so your stomach can tell you, hey, I'm full, before it's too late, before you've eaten the whole thing.
Right.
Portion control, like we've talked about. And I thought it was interesting. She mentioned in the book that she came to America as an exchange student in college, and she gained 20 pounds. And when she went back to France, she got back to her ideal weight. She maintained that for 30 years. And she said that in her business and her job, she ate out over 300 meals in a year. So she was even able to maintain that, eating out just by using these kind of principles. And of course, she walks a lot. She said a lot of French women don't obsess over the gym and all this, high-end workout. They just walk everywhere. So she said, if there's an elevator, always look for the stairs. So I've kind of tried to adopt that. Like, even at a hotel, I'll take the stairs.
Right.
And it really can make a difference.
Yeah. Oh, that's neat. Well, do you guys think there's a lot of guilt and shame associated with food in our society?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, how does that guilt sabotage your eating goals, Mindy?
Well, I feel like guilt with anything in our lives, it always condemns, always. And that's a way that I look at it, that guilt condemns you. It wants to keep you there and in that shameful place. And so I think with anything, start with forgiving yourself and move on, because I think that, anywhere you look, commercials, social media, we are constantly barraged with advertisements of weight loss and exercise and new exercise equipment and new weight loss regimens. And let me make your food for you for the rest of your life, so you never have to learn how to eat on your own. And so I just think that guilt condemns you, and it will never do anything positive for you. So if there's some way you can find to forgive yourself, or forgive even the way that you were thinking, it will be so much healthier for you, because it will never do anything good for you.
Yeah, I think that I feel really uncomfortable even talking about this food subject. Like, we've had this on the docket to talk about for several weeks, and I haven't been that eager, because I don't want anyone to feel like I do when I hear other people talk about it. Ooh, maybe I should be doing that. Oh no, I've been doing it all wrong. I'm probably going to get sick and die early because I've been eating such and such all these years. Or worse, I've been feeding it to my kids. Why don't I have more self-control? Maybe that's the secret and I need to try it. Right. So many things go through my mind and I don't like it. I don't like doubting decisions that I've made and the panic and the guilt that go along with that.
Like what I'd like to say is, what works for one person may not work for everyone.
Well, there certainly is a lot of unspoken messages that we learn growing up, things that maybe no one even told us, but we just picked up on from other people around us. And I think all of us enter adulthood with some baggage around food. I don't think there's anyone out there that has this thing down.
Right.
No. But you can certainly look at people that look like they do and think they don't struggle.
Right. Yeah, I think you probably just need to remember that everyone struggles, whether they admit it or not. I mean, I shouldn't say everyone. Maybe there's the 1%, but most everyone.
Right.
Yeah.
But this is so good, Julie. I'm glad that we talked about this, even though I've avoided it for.
I know. I was a little nervous too. I don't know why. I just was.
Well, it has the potential to hurt people. I think people can be hurt by what other people say about this subject. And we don't want any listeners to feel that way. Food issues are
personal. They're very personal.
Very personal. Right.
Yeah. So listeners, we hope that you take everything we said today with the spirit that we intended, which was just to have a conversation between three midlife women as to what we've tried over the years, how we feel about things at this point in our life versus 10 years ago, and how we hope we'll be going forward. We would love to hear some of the things that you guys feel about this subject. Send us a message on our Instagram at Midlife Matters Podcast or email us at midlifematterspodcast@gmail.com. You can also call us on our new phone number and leave a voicemail. It's 209-MIDLIFE. That's 209-643-5433. All right, Julie and Mindy, you guys know what time it is. It's time to move into our I'm a Fan. All right, Julie, what are you a fan of this week?
Okay, it's a food item, probably not a healthy food item.
All right.
But it is stuffed puffs. They are marshmallows that have chocolate inside.
Oh, that sounds delicious.
Yeah, they're ideal for s'mores. This weekend, we had a little movie night around our fire pit, and I had bought these at the grocery. They just make the perfect s'more because you know how when you get that nice toasty melted marshmallow and then you put it on your cold chocolate bar, it just doesn't work.
Right.
So this way, the chocolate just oozes out.
Oh, that sounds fantastic.
Yes, they're very good.
And what did you say they're called again?
Stuffed puffs.
All right. Well, I'm definitely going to look for those at my grocery store.
Yeah, I think I got them at the grocery store, but I'm looking. They do have them on Amazon.
Okay. Listeners, will put a link to those in our show notes if you want to check out the perfect marshmallow for s'mores. All right, Mindy, what are you a fan of this week?
Okay. I have found the perfect pair of white jeans. I know this sounds like an oxymoron, but I'm a huge fan of J. Crew.
Mm-hmm.
They have a vintage straight jean with a button fly, and these jeans are fabulous. It's a thicker white denim. And so pretty much like I had been trying to find white jeans for years, and these jeans are thick enough so it's not, you can't really see through them.
Right.
And so it's a really good quality white denim. I love how long they are. I love the button fly. I am curvy, so they fit my waist. They fit my hips just fine, but it's just like the perfect denim. They're not too tight. They're not too loose.
Oh, that's awesome. Have you washed them yet, Mindy? Did they turn out the same way?
I am not washing these suckers.
Okay.
Are they a little stretchy?
They do have a little stretch in them. Yes.
Okay,
perfect. Yeah.
And with J. Crew, you typically size down one size.
Oh, okay.
And then you kind of wear them into your comfort level. But I just love them so much.
Oh, white jeans are hard to find.
Yeah. Yes.
Sure. All right. Well,
so I will send you a link to those on the J. Crew website.
Yes, we will definitely include a link to those in our show notes. Well, I'm a fan of something very basic, but that disappears around our house all the time. And just this week, I had to order a new set, and I thought, I'm going to share these with listeners. I ordered a 5-pack of 6-foot-long iPhone charging cable cords. And those things, they just disappear left and right.
Yes.
So for 5 of them on Amazon, I paid $12.48, and I will put the link in the show notes. They work with all kinds of iPhones. I'm sure that you can get very similar ones for Androids too. But, this way at, $2 or $3 a pop, I don't mind if my children leave them places or can't find them. Whereas if you replace them at the Apple store, you're going to pay a lot more, and you're going to be a lot more mad if your kids suddenly didn't bring that back home.
Right.
So get yourself some cheap iPhone charging cords. These are nice because they are 6 foot long, so you can plug them in and be quite far away and still be comfortable. Listeners, if you want to get our show notes in your email box every week, email us at midlifematterspodcast@gmail.com and just put show notes in the subject line, and you will get all the links to our I'm a Fan right in your email box every week. Ladies, I enjoyed our talk so much. Thank you for being willing to talk about the topic that no woman really feels comfortable talking about.
Yes.
Yep.
Food and food rules.
Right.
It was good.
Yes. I don't know what we're going to tackle next week, but it will be also something that is on most of our minds.
This was fun.
All right. We'll talk to you guys next week.
All right. Goodbye.
Sounds great. Bye.
We're so happy you joined us today. If you'd like to get the show notes for today's episode, please email your name and address to midlifematterspodcast@gmail.com and write show notes in the subject line. Also, please tell a friend about the show and help them hit the free subscribe button on their favorite podcast app. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Midlife Matters Podcast. That's where we post pictures and stories about all the things we talk about in each episode. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.